We'll get into the Jeff Skinner buyout now, Austin, and this was one that caught some Sabres fans off guard, but some maybe not so much. But as we look at Cap Friendly, and this might be one of the last times that we'll ever be able to use Cap Friendly because the website has obviously been bought by the Washington Capitals moving forward. We'll see if there's going to be another website for us to be able to use as a resource on this show. But the Jeff Skinner buyout, the first year is only $1.4 million. But the next couple years after that, and you'd think those are going to be years that are going to be tough for Buffalo because they're going to be looking to be contenders, playoff teams at that point, $4.4 million in 25-26, and then in 26-27, it goes up to $6.4 million on their cap, and then it goes down to $2.4 for the next 3 years afterward. Austin, what are your thoughts on the buyout itself, and then the cap ramifications for the Sabres down the road?
Yeah, I think the buyout itself was necessary. Necessary is a tough word because they haven't really replaced the top six forward yet, so necessary might not be the best word. But when you kind of looked at the shift in philosophy, the emphasis on speed, responsibility, and the two-way game that this team now is apparently preaching, Skinner doesn't really fit that. He can still score in this league. I think he's going to do really well in Edmonton. He's going to, he's going to play a similar game to Zach Hyman in Edmonton, right? He's going to, score from in close. He's probably going to have a lot of opportunities on rebounds and things like that. And while he's not he's not fast. He's never been fast, but he is still a very good skater in terms of his edge work and his ability to get to those areas. But you kind of heard Kevin Adams say it. We weren't going to use him in the top six this year. He doesn't have that skill set to play in the bottom six. And he never really has. And there's nothing there's no wrong, that's okay. They paid Jeff Skinner to score goals, and except for that Ralph Kruger stuff that happened that kind of took 2 years away of his prime, he has scored goals. So I'm okay with the buyout. I'm annoyed they never replaced him in the top six, but I am definitely okay with the buyout because, yeah, at some point, $9 million for a pure offensive guy just wasn't worth it. He still scored 24 goals last year, so he wasn't completely off a cliff. I bet you he's going to score 25 in Edmonton, but I have no issue with it. Like I said, I take the issue. The issue is the moves that have not happened after the Skinner buyout because you saved so much cap space and you didn't really do anything with it. But the buyout itself, yeah, I understand it. But I do think that Jeff Skinner is a lot more useful than, some people. Most people understand why he was bought out. Most people realize he wasn't washed. He's not a good two-way player. He's never been a good two-way player. And right now, that's what Buffalo needs in their bottom six, and he was going to be a bottom six player. You saw it last year. He got moved off the Tage and Tuck line, and they replaced with Peterka, and that line immediately took off at the end of the season. So it's something kind of switched halfway through the year where it just wasn't working for him anymore. And under this new regime, he was going to have to be a responsible two-way player, and he's just never been that. So it's cool. I get it.
Do you think maybe because of the emergence of a guy like J.J. Peterka and Zach Benson being a star rookie at 18 years old, also, pushing that envelope, and then you got guys like Roseanne and Kulich that are basically, fringe NHLers at this point ready to come up, making a guy like Skinner expendable, and then they obviously moved on from Savoy as well. So do you think that the play of, the Bensons, the Peterkas, and then having such great depth with their top prospects that are ready to come up from Rochester, factoring into the equation of Skinner just was the odd man out there of another skilled offensive guy that needed to be moved out?
Yeah, I'm sure it factors in a little bit, but like I said, to me, it was just Adam said it himself. He's like, Edmonton said they view him as a top six, but Adam said they weren't going to use him as a top six. And when you look at his skill set is that of, if I'm not playing in the top six, I'm not exactly useful to the team because he's a pure offensive player. He does get under the skin of other, of the opponents. He's a disturber that way, but he's not a responsible two-way player who's going to give it his all in the defensive end, and he's never been. So when you look at some of the players that they've signed, like, Zucker might not be the greatest defensive player at all, but he's a perfectly capable third-line scoring winger. He's not going to kill you defensively the way Jeff Skinner would and did last year. So I do get it. I do think, again, there's a glaring hole that someone's got to fill. But in terms of the way that Lindy Ruff was going to use him, it's just, I think it was more that, and then they'll worry about the rest later, which clearly that's been their philosophy because they haven't necessarily addressed that top six role yet. So it is what it is. The buyout is going to affect you in a couple of years, which obviously stinks, but I think they're a smart enough team cap wise to plan ahead with that.